This is State of Mind. If you like what you see, you got to hit subscribe. There's this little thing right here. You see it? All right. Today, Sunday, I have Laura Wright. I'm sure many people know Laura as Carly Corinthos.
Almost Morgan.
Carly. That's right. Carly Corinthos Morgan.
Oh my gosh. So funny. Well, depending on when this airs.
She is a. She's been in this. Look, there's a lot of things that she just kicks ass in soap operas. She's the queen. I mean, she's been in this frickin' business for 30 years, successfully for 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, in every soap she's been on, she's been successful. And she just, like came in to play this role where I was done with. It wasn't a personal thing on Laura. I didn't know Laura. I didn't know her work. I didn't know anything. It was just I was done with Carly. Can we just put the cards on the table? I was done with Carly. And on top of that, or despite of that, Laura came in and said, I don't care. I'm going to do this to the best of my ability. And she's made Carly the biggest thing around. She's won an Emmy. But what I'm very proud of her is because she's a certified meditation teacher. That's cool. All right. How you doing?
I'm good.
You like that monologue?
Wow, I love it. Thank you so much. How long did you work on that?
Not that long. I haven't, usually I have a kind of a script that I go on, but, we've known each other. We've talked a lot about stuff. So I
have to say, you were so right. You were done with Carly. And I didn't take it personally. I think that's really what has been the gift of our relationship is that when I started, you really needed a break from it being Sunny Carly, Sunny Carly. And that was 16 years ago. I mean, I've been there 16 years now. And so the funny part is that I was like, okay, like and I don't know why I didn't take it personally because I'm sure back then I took a lot of things personally. But I was like, all right, he gets to have. That's okay, like we're allowed to have our wants and then they put me with Jax, remember? And so I was with Ingo for like 6 years, which gave us great stuff. Like we were the best exes. We had a great time.
And I didn't know you.
No, not at all.
Or your work.
No.
Because maybe
it was another soap though, and we didn't really watch other networks. Like I knew you because I grew up watching General Hospital, so I always followed along, even though I was on another network. And I was on ABC for the first 7 years that I did daytime. So.
But back then, if I had cared about Carly, I would have watched you.
Right.
Just to see who they're bringing in.
Right.
But I just.
Well, you had also been through. Tamara had left. They brought on Jenny. Chose to move on from Jenny. So there was a lot of Carly stuff that you had to be like, I'm just done.
I'm just done. Yeah.
I get 100%.
Let's talk about what's going on right now. I want to get the GH stuff out of the way, and then we'll get deep and stuff.
Yeah.
So right now, what's going on is I'm playing a character named Mike. He's not Sunny. He's got amnesia, and
I love these kind of storylines. So
I'm having the greatest time. The audience is
split.
There's no split. Don't even try to say it's split. That's ridiculous. If anything, it's maybe 90-10 now. They're turning a little bit around, but...
Well, that's only if you read social media. But I don't know what else we have to go by, right?
One thing that I have is I have a real connection with the audience, my audience. Now, it may not be the whole GH, but it's and I can tell, like almost right away. And I'm the one who
what gets the backlash?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're not saying that they don't like Mike. They're saying they
just want you home.
They want Sonny, yeah.
Period.
And you know that's
And
all
they love Sonny Carly.
Yeah, they all
Yeah.
want Sonny Carly.
Right. Which is how grateful, right? I mean,
yeah, but usually it's when I don't like a storyline, I'm the one who's I'm having a great time.
Well, you know, here's the thing. I was thinking about this because I had a feeling it was going to come up, and you had to do something. You can't break Carly and Sonny up in the old traditional way and everything, because Carly and Sonny have been through so much, and they are so solid, and they were so solid in their relationship that for them to split up in a way that was just silly really would take away from the relationship.
Yeah.
You know, when you bury a son and you watch your father die together, like, you know, Mike leaves, you then have something silly come of that. So, you know, I found they did this storyline, which gave you something really great to play. It gave Carly and her world, you know, it was kind of spiraling out of control. She didn't have Sonny's protection anymore. She didn't, you know, Ava takes the daughter away. Like Carly was losing all of her, you know, power or standing or life, really. But I, you know, I grew up watching daytime, so screaming at the TV and yelling at your characters and wanting the, you know, I just hate the nastiness.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's because people should be passionate about what they want. But, you know, we can also love that you're going to get it, by the way. I can't imagine they think that, you know, you're going to stay there forever.
No, I just think that in this particular story, you know, Frank Sinatra should not sing country songs. I think that's kind of...
Did you sing a country song?
I'm trying to think.
Or were you damn close?
I'm very close.
You wore the hat.
Yeah, the hat's where it...
Well, yeah, I don't know.
And it's not me not liking. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Right.
And, but anyway, the next...
See, I just tell a story that, like, of what's coming. And so I know that what's coming, and really at this point we haven't even seen a script, but we know it's coming and we know it's kind of soon. It's going to be incredible. Like,
oh yeah, the next
level
is
going to blow your mind.
It's going to be outrageous.
Right, but we have to get there.
Yeah, I think maybe what happened is maybe this shouldn't have been as long.
Right. But were there stuff happening, scheduling and stuff that shifted a lot of stuff? I don't know.
I'll tell you, yeah, well, I was supposed to do a movie, now I'm doing it at the end of the year. But that was it. It was like 2 to 3 weeks of...
But that stuff happens a lot in storytelling, and I don't think people realize that. When you were dealing with a cast of 30 actors, that some being on contract, some not, that also get to audition for other things, sometimes storylines do either end quick,
and
where you go, what just happened, or they get stretched out longer because of scheduling behind the scenes. Everyone is doing the best they can. That is the truth.
Yes.
No one's showing up going, how do we make this worse?
And this isn't a particular storyline that I'm having a great fucking time. And it's a trip because there was a day that I played Sonny.
Oh, yeah.
And Mike.
That was a couple weeks ago with me.
And I don't like...
That's a tough one.
Sonny. I don't like his energy. I don't like his darkness.
Ooh.
I know I've been doing...
No, that's something interesting that can segue into stuff that we want to talk about, because, you know, as actors on a daytime show, especially how quick we work now, and playing two of the people who work a great deal, we don't tell one show a week and then have a 3-month hiatus. We don't do a movie in 3 to 6 months and then have a month off in the Mediterranean on a yacht to, recover. We tell it all year round. You know, I had 3 days of work before our vacation. I had 9 shows in those 3 days. And what we do is really intense, and our body doesn't know we're faking. So when you own Sonny's intensity and darkness, you really own it, and you live and breathe it. And these 3 weeks are important. Or having a storyline that may be a Sonny break for 6-7 months is a gift to you.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's also, it's because I've never played on the show anything but Sonny, I'm just used to that thing. Now I've had 8 months of playing this relaxed, fun, thing. Yeah. And now I go, well,
but that would be interesting, I think, when Sonny does come back, because we have to assume he's going to. I mean, like, what's the point if you don't? And he's always going to have a part of Mike with him.
Yeah, there could be that. Yeah.
No, but Mike's experiences are then become Sonny's, and so that's an interesting journey for the character of Sonny to be like, now with every decision he makes, he's like, I know a different world. Like I things aren't so black and white. Maybe, I don't know. It's just an interesting.
No,
way.
it would be if they could write it. You know, I think it's just too difficult for an actor to just bring that if it's not kind of on the page.
For sure, it has to be a discussion.
But it is a cool thing.
It is cool.
All right, let's get out of GH.
Okay.
Oh,
I want to say something on my side of that as well.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people are not kindly freaking out about the Carly Jason thing. And it's really, I have to say, I did a scene the other day where when Steve and I were having scenes in Sonny's kitchen with the Moss, and it was a really great moment where after the scene was over, I stopped and I told Steve, I said, that was such an incredible scene. I felt the character of Sonny in this room, even though I wasn't here. Like playing that he's still a part of every decision that we're making is so incredible.
Right.
And that these two are making a decision based on strategic move for the family, not that they're falling in love. And I think that's really crucial because it still keeps Sonny alive in their relationship, which is a story I love telling, you know.
Right. And then once Sonny, I don't know how they're going to write it, but once Sonny comes back and all hell's going to
break loose.
Break loose. So, because, you know, like my wife
and
says.
Poor Cynthia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't.
Because she's the nicest human being on the planet.
She
and I
is.
have a feeling I'm going to have to yell at her a lot. Or Carly, you know.
Well, not only that.
The beating she's taken?
The beating she's taken with me. It's like, I mean,
yeah.
I don't understand how it's not fair. But anyway, that's another thing.
You know, I mean.
But we're going to have great stuff
100%.
when we come back.
With Cynthia as well, who is just incredible. I'm a huge fan.
I'm a huge fan too.
I know. I love Cynthia.
I
love watching it. Like, it's my other thing about the show is that I like watching you do what you do, you know? Like, whether it's Sonny or not, but like watching you. I remember I was watching a scene, I think one of the first times you and Cynthia had to kiss, and I was like, I was on set, and because I was shooting next, and I walk upstairs, and I'm like, that was so sweet.
It's a good energy.
It's just being someone who loves daytime, that this is the storyline that's happening. You kind of want to fall in love with both sides because that's the pool.
Look, I will say how you're feeling now is starting to kind of happen.
Right. Well, people would stop FFing and watch. That's the problem. I have the same problem. You can ask Wes. I do the same thing. If things get stressful, I like to fast forward. The FF button has destroyed us because, you know, the journey that we take you on from taking two people that you'd never want together, but if you watch instead of, I mean, how many people go, I FF through their scenes? I'm like, well, there you go. You're losing what might be interesting storytelling. And just because it's boom, not what I want, I don't care, I FF. It's
exactly.
Like, and I understand it because I do it too, but only when it comes to stressful things because I don't like stress. But I don't
watch a lot of TV.
Like when Nina was almost going to get caught by the guy and she was stealing the information, you know, I was like, oh my God, I can't watch that. And I knew what happened. So.
All right, let's can we talk about I want to talk about your divorce.
Okay.
Because we had great talks about that.
Yeah.
And how difficult it was.
It was hard.
And you were very open with me about it. What's the toughest part?
Oh, the kids part?
Yeah.
Really hard. And letting go. The toughest part ends up being the most beautiful part, right? Letting go of what you think a family should look like, and then accepting that you can still be a family, but it doesn't have to be man and wife and how the traditional family is supposed to look. And trying to force that. It was gonna stay. I was gonna force it no matter what, and to where it was gonna kill me, and it almost did. And then when I finally let go and stopped running from the pain and witnessed what was happening and accepted it, then it all started to fall into place.
Now, do you think, I mean, this is pretty, I mean, it's an obvious question, but you're going to give me an obvious answer. Without kids, it would have been just easier.
Oh, yeah.
Because that expectation for your kids makes it that much harder.
Oh, well, yeah, and well, when it's first happening and you're hurt and you don't want to see the other person, right? Because when you see the other person, you see pain.
Yeah.
And then you have to see the other person because you have to swap the kids. Then you're like, well, if I didn't have the kids with you, I wouldn't have to swap them, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And that's all the early on initial feelings that are, I think, the superficial anger, resentment, blame, all the stuff that doesn't really matter.
In the beginning, did you try to keep it from the kid, or were you?
No, there really wasn't keeping it. I'm not good at. I was a very different person. I wore my feelings. It was about me, my emotion, what I wanted. How could you do it to me? I was very much in a victim state of mind, and I had to learn to let that go. And realize that didn't serve me or them, and it was only going to keep me on the hamster wheel of pain.
Yeah.
Until I could say, okay, I'm not a victim. Every choice I've ever made in my life has brought me to this moment. Take responsibility for where you stand, and then let's move forward.
Did that?
But
pain,
boy, that took a lot. It took a lot of work.
How
a
long
journey.
is a lot?
Well, I was relentless.
I was there.
But I was relentless in my search for, why is this happening to me? There has to be a meaning. And at work, I was really great. No one ever knew anything was really happening. And because, I was raised in a family where you had to be perfect and everything's perfect and it has to look great and don't ever tell anyone your business. All that, it all has to look great no matter what's happening behind the scenes. And I'm a really happy, joyful person. So when I was sad and upset and just angry and resentful, underneath all of that, I still was like, but what about happy me? Like, my home base inside is joy, is really just excitement and joy. And so when I had all that pain going on, I didn't know what to do with it. And it just didn't make sense to me. And then, of course, divorce made no sense. And anything my ex-husband was saying that he needed or wanted, might have been, I wasn't listening. No, you can't leave. You have to do it. We have to fix it. Force it, force it, force it. And even when I was agreeing to separation and going through the motions of like being a separated woman, inside I was just waiting for him to like come to terms with it and come back.
Wow.
Family has to be put back together. And I remember, and I was going to meditation retreats. I was doing Deepak
Tim Robbins.
Chopra. Then I would do Tony Robbins. And I was getting all this information and learning it. And at first I was only really going to these places to then go back to my ex-husband and see, I'm fixed. I'm great. Am I good enough to be taken back now?
Wow.
Like that was this desperation to be, because so much of my self-worth was wrapped up in being this pairing with him. Married, being someone who wanted to marry me. Like when he asked me to marry him in 1995, I couldn't believe that somebody would want to marry me. The low self-esteem I had, I only was taught to be pretty, and that was really it. What do I want? What is a dream I have? Those were never questions that mattered, or
Wow.
What do I like? I didn't know. You tell me. What tell me what to like. I don't know. A man had to want me, desire me, and love me, and tell me who I was supposed to be.
Really?
But you'd never know that about me because I'm a fighter. Because, everyone has their place in home, right?
Yeah.
And to survive in my household, in the area I grew up in, I was the fighter. I was like, argue, debate, and there really was no debate in my household. But and so when it all started to crumble, it was like watching a 5-year-old child lose her mind at times, like a severe temper tantrum, but as an adult woman.
Damn.
And so I had to die. That version of me had to die for me be reborn as who I am now.
Did you go through a lot of depression?
I didn't go through a lot of depression. I stayed in that place, pissed off, angry. If anyone tried to talk me out of it, you just need to, it was boom, I would come at them. Like, don't you fucking tell me.
Oh, shit.
You know, anyone that I let in, very much aggressive, very angry. And then I somehow picked up this book called Love Warrior by Glennon Doyle, and it broke my heart open. I sat and read this book and wept at times. And basically that book started me on the journey to allow myself to cry and allow myself to mourn. And she says, you know, I'm probably jacking up the what she said, but grief is the receipt that I paid the price, that I loved. And I was like, oh, so this hurts so much because I loved so much.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't realize it was okay for me to cry and be in pain. I'm fine. Oh, everything's fine. We're going to put it back together. No matter, and let's just be clear, behind closed doors, I was evil to my ex. I was like berating him. How dare you ruin a family? It wasn't like I was like, oh, this is a beautiful world.
And what
Why
would
can't
he
you come
say?
back? Get away from me. You're being insane.
Really?
Because he didn't have the tools to understand what
Yeah.
I was doing either. Like I met my ex-husband when I was 14 years old.
Oh.
He had just turned 16. My first date ever was with him. He picked me up and I went to watch him skateboard in like a drain tunnel with a whole bunch of his friends who I'd play spin the bottle with in elementary school. And they were all like in our wedding when we got married.
Wow.
3 months, 3 months after he proposed. So I wasn't with him the whole time from, 14 on, but I mean, so that relationship was established when I was really young and had the tools of a 14-year-old, really. So this book I read called Love Warrior just gave me everything that Glennon went through in this book. I went through, like the anger, I remember she had, God, at times I wish he were dead. And people were like, how could you say that? And she's like, well, because then I don't have to see him again. It doesn't have to hurt.
Yeah.
No,
right.
you don't really wish
Right.
that person's death. It's just you want to remove the pain. And just seeing those words on the paper was like, yes, it gave me permission. And it broke me over. Sometimes I'd have to put the book away because I just kept crying and crying and crying. And it was amazing.
But crying was probably a way of relief.
Oh, well, and she says tears is our sacred baptism.
Yeah.
Crying should be celebrated. Not,
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, look how much Carly cries.
That's
and they
true.
were so separate, too. So I didn't bring, and I was working all the time at this time going on, and which was a gift. A part of me thinks I should have been I should have gone somewhere for like a month to really heal because.
Sure.
I really was broken and it was a death. And now I am so different, but that started the journey. And I tell you, the moment I realized I was free, it was April 2017, probably 3 weeks before I ran into Wes.
Oh.
I took my kids on a spring break and my ex-husband said, I want to come down for one of the days. And I was like, okay. And so, and of course I was like, okay, still playing. And we're going like 3 years.
Wow.
3 years after the separation, but still that like, maybe. And of course those moments and feelings and thoughts were getting further and further away, but it's still there. And during this time I had read this great other quote. I became obsessed with Glennon Doyle because I felt that, and she was one of a million books I've read to help me through this process. But again, it was the permission, and every quote, every Instagram post I would read from her, I was like, oh my God, I get it now. Like I just kept saying, what's wrong with me? I must be pathetic. There was so much self-loathing and shame. I was just constantly beating myself. And when I would read, her posts on Instagram or her book, it just brought me back to, there's nothing wrong with me. It's okay for people to want to live a different life, right?
Right.
And so John ended up coming down for this break, and we're hanging out and doing things. And I had gotten I had posted something about Glennon on my Instagram feed, and she responded, "Oh my God, Carly likes me." And I was like, like fangirling like crazy. And I'm like, "Carly loves you." And so John was there, and he's like, "What are you talking? What's going on?" I was like, "Oh my gosh. So this woman, Glennon Doyle," and I'm telling him all about her and her book, and she so saved my life. And I look up, and he's looking at me like I have 3 heads. And he's like, and right then I was like, "Oh my God, he's not my person. He doesn't even."
He doesn't get the.
He didn't understand, and that's okay. It's not his.
Yeah, yeah.
And like that, I was free. When I started really standing in my excitement and things that were interesting to me, and finding this new path of who I am. And I looked up at this person, and then the first time it wasn't about trying to get him to want love or like. I realized it's okay for it not to be. And like, I mean, and it took 3 years. It took 3 years.
But it's amazing that it had to take all this to see that. And he's probably done that how many times in the past where he looked at you like,
oh yeah, for sure.
And you just been like,
well, I was so blinded with the pain and listen to me and me.
Right.
And in this time I was so excited, like, oh my God, this woman's amazing. Great. I'm like, really, you're not my person. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. And it just started, then I just started the reading and more meditation retreats and more into what am I curious about? What do I like? Who am I? And that just started this incredible journey.
Then you met Wes?
Well, 3 weeks later, I bumped into Wes at an Emmy party. And that was it. I mean, and I'm so glad it happened that way because, my life didn't get, I wasn't able to let go of my ex because of Wes. I would have never wanted that because that's not really a thing. And then I met Wes 3 weeks later. And even that's been an incredible journey, because he's here's a bachelor. And I was married and raised 2 kids. I was married for 17 years, 2 totally different lifestyles. And now slowly bringing him into the family where I was married. And the ex-husband is still very much a part of.
Do they get together?
Well, that's what I was saying. Like when you think about this, like person that I was before, and all the pain and holding on. I mean, think of, who was it? Brenda hanging on to you?
Yeah.
Like
my legs.
That was me. Right. And John's like trying to, like,
Really?
I was that desperate to keep my family together. And then now he's still in my family. My daughter graduated college.
That's
for 4 days. We rented a condo and we were all 4 together. Well, it was more than 4 of us. It was my daughter, her boyfriend, my son, his girlfriend, and me and Wes and John. I mean, we're making breakfast together. Every dinner was together.
Wow.
We're throwing party. I mean, when I tell you we're making coffee, John, coffee's ready, setting up for my daughter's party. John and Wes are out there building things together. When I tell you we're a family, it's just shifted positions.
But see, the beauty of this.
Or identities. It doesn't have to look like this certain way. And when you get your ego out of it, and you love someone enough to go, what do you want?
Right.
I wasn't listening to John.
Yeah.
And whatever he wanted was what he wanted. But if it wasn't the setup we had going, that's got to be okay. Not that it's not going to be painful. Not that it's not going to hurt. However, you got to love someone enough to say, I want you to have the life. We get one shot at this.
Yeah.
I want you to have the life that you want. And if we can make it happen together, great. But if not, you should have the life you want.
Well, the beauty of it is that no matter what you went through, and it's what I talk about a lot is, and I've been there a lot, where you just don't believe you can go on.
Yeah.
Okay? But the reality is, look at the ending of your movie that you just had.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've never been happier or honest,
right?
And
but
authentic like this.
We don't. When we're in that, hell,
Yeah.
we never think that that's going to happen. But you know
Oh,
what?
no.
It always does happen. I've said how many
Well,
times?
they say the only way out is through.
Yes.
And the only way through is in.
Right.
You've got to get quiet. And you go into meditation and you're in it for 2 minutes and you start sobbing, and that's okay. Those were 2 minutes you didn't do the day before.
That's right.
And it's just, it doesn't have to be a big sweeping thing. And sometimes it's 5 steps forwards and 3 steps backwards.
Yes.
Like sometimes it is. And that's okay, because life's a dance.
People who are out there who are thinking they can't go on, they're depressed and whatever they have. When I
was in my sadness that just lasted, I kept thinking, is this ever going to stop hurting? And I never wanted to end it, like my life. There were times I didn't want to wake up just because I didn't want it. The second I woke up, it was that pain.
Yeah.
And so I read another incredible author, Elizabeth Gilbert. But she talked about a happiness jar. And that every night before you go to bed, you get this like big mason jar or whatever. Some people had like a flower thing, or, a vase. And I had a big mason jar and Post-its with a pen. And every night before I went to bed, I'd write down 3 things. Well, I think the first time it was one thing that made me happy that day. Could have been like seeing a pretty flower, the smell of the leaves in fall, or meeting a new friend. But one thing. And I remember being like, so angry and pissed, especially because during my daytime when I would see people at work or picking the kids up from school, I was so fake and everything was so fine that when I got home, it was like, it was all there. And one thing for like 3 weeks and then turned into 3 things and 2 things. And when I tell you that simple act changed my life. Look at these things you have to be grateful about. Sometimes it was a sunrise.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was not, and it was that little act starting me on.
Really?
Find something, one thing that was beautiful today, that brought you happiness in some way. And it just started cracking my heart open in that and then I would sit outside and I'm like, gosh, when daytime goes to bed and nighttime wakes up, it's like a symphony outside. And I found nature to be
I love nature.
An incredible gift to me. And then you read the book, The 4 Agreements. I don't know if you've read that.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I only read nothing general about it. Yeah.
Well, it's a really great book. I know. I mean, it was really hard for me to put down. I understand. I heard the lead guy's pretty hot.
Yeah, he's hot.
Yeah, lead character.
I called you that during a tough time during the pandemic. We talked, and you sent me a guy named David G.
Yeah, my meditation teacher.
David G. Hi.
He's got the best voice,
It's
doesn't
great.
he?
But the problem is when you I'll speak for myself. When you're in, like, I call the gears, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. When you're in 5th gear, which was what I was during the pandemic, I listened to him. Nothing helped. Nothing. Working out, doing it, nothing. I had to get medicated. I had to get professional help, right?
I was medicated at one point.
Yeah. But now I listen to him. He's the greatest.
Yeah.
I'm like this.
Well, but you were in 5th gear, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you could have probably used both of it at the time.
I couldn't. Nothing was working.
Right.
But now I love David G. and I love his voice. I love the music he has, and I cry like a baby.
He's incredible.
And it's just beautiful. But the thing is, when you're that
far gone, you should have him on State of Mind. He would love it.
Oh, he would?
Yeah. Send him a private message on Instagram.
I'd have him on
I'll connect you to.
Yeah, because
he's a beautiful man.
I listen to him. Yeah. I do it like once, 2, 3 times. I think
he just got back from San Francisco, training police officers with mindfulness and meditation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
I'd love to. Yeah. So obviously at that point you gotta get help.
100%. I was on anti.
What were you on?
Zoloft.
Yeah.
For 9 months.
9 months.
It was way back at the beginning of my separation. Because I needed a pause before a reaction. It was definitely...
Did it help?
Yeah, we knew it was temporary. And I was really afraid to go off of it because...
And just so we're clear here, as far as medication and whatnot, and what we're not professionals.
No, I'm just telling you
But we're
what,
just
what,
talking
what
our
helped me at the
experience.
time
Yeah,
from
so-
a doctor, a psychiatrist, and
Right.
a psychotherapist.
Zola.
Yes. And it was 9 months back in, I think, 2014.
Wow.
2014 for about 9 months. And it just gave me a pause before I reacted.
Yeah.
And I needed it. You know, I was raised in a household where cry and I'll give you something to cry about. And there was no discussion. It was 0 to 100 of, you know, slamming your fist on the table, or, you know, it was very
Tough. Yeah.
It was tough. It was very generational.
Were you?
know?
Was it abusive?
You would call it abuse now, but then if you got spanked with a belt, it was normal. Especially, you know, on the East Coast. My mom was a coal miner's daughter. My dad was a Southern Baptist minister's son, and they were 16 and 18 when they got married.
But it does affect you.
100%.
But maybe not your brother.
You have to. Oh yeah, it affects everybody. You have to undo.
But not as
it
much.
all.
There's levels of being affected. Like my brother and I went through. Actually, he went through worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, of abuse, whatever. I know it affects. He says it doesn't, and I know.
And
it
when
did.
I say it wasn't, I'm not saying it wasn't abuse, but you couldn't have done anything about it then, right? It
No,
wasn't
right,
labeled
right.
abuse.
It was,
you know?
yeah, and
it was allowed.
The difference is, I think, when it's abuse is when you're doing something with anger and you can't stop. That's abuse.
Yeah, I remember my dad taking me, and this was normal at the time. The principal was like, "Yes, sir." In kindergarten, my dad took me to school and said, "Now, if she gets out of line, you beat her ass." And the principal was like, it was not a big deal for a principal to spank a child.
Wow.
But especially to be a young girl.
Yeah.
To then have another man that you don't even know have the permission to do what he wanted physically to you, not sexually, but physically.
Yeah.
It's odd, you know. But like I said, it was a very generational thing. So I come from that. So when I came up scrapping and fighting, it was like, and I wasn't a very scrappy person. I mean, I was very happy, fun. I was a cheerleader, like really. But if I had to get into it or argue, it was quick. I didn't really have any tools on discussions, communication. There was none of those really. I didn't have those tools at the time.
Let's go to the last topic. Your parents died.
Yes, 2 years ago.
How does that?
How was it?
I don't know.
Okay, well, my mom
Whatever
was
you wanted to-
suffering with emphysema for a long time. My dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer a long time ago and was able to have a surgery and survive it, but never really recovered from the chemotherapy and radiation. It just always seemed to be something. And he ended up dying of cirrhosis of the liver, and he didn't drink.
Wow.
It was very odd. I haven't publicly talked about this. I've told a few people. My mom's death was fascinating. She died October 24th, and a couple times before October, I'd flown home thinking, "Oh, this is it," because she was really struggling at the end. And we were able to get her back going, and always had a great time. Like once we got her feeling okay, and we could like make her eat food and watch some Law and Order, and I could rub lotion on her feet, and we could make fun of her for all the funny things. Then everything was good. And then I was called home, and I was at a fan event, and I woke up that morning and was like, got the phone call, "You got to come to the hospital. This is it." And so I just had to leave straight from there. And I think I was in Raleigh. I might have been. So it was a really quick flight to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I remember as the plane was landing, I was hoping it was over before I got there, so I didn't have to be a part of it. I was so afraid to watch her die.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the biggest blessing in my life. I spent the next 4 days sleeping on the floor next to her bed, giving her every 4 hours her morphine. I got to have this incredible moment where I was rubbing lotion on her legs, and my mom was a very vain woman because being beautiful was important to her. And she was so ashamed, and she had this oxygen mask on. And she like pointed to her feet and was like she was shamed. And I was like, these legs? And I went on to tell this story about the legs, her legs, and the journey of her legs and the feet, and how beautiful these legs have carried her whole life, and had babies and raised grandchildren. And she's just laying there. She couldn't talk really, and tears streaming down her face with this oxygen mask on. And then she's hitting me because if she cries, she coughs and she can't breathe. And we're trying not to laugh. And then I was there when the hospice people came to us and said, you know, she'll eventually die, but you need to remove the mask. It's an option, because it's basically the only thing keeping her alive. And I look at my dad, who's a mess, and not well either. My sister was just a mess, and my brother was like, no way. And I knew right then, I'm like, you're going to have to take the mask off. And the hospice can't do it because they're not legally allowed to. They're angels from heaven, by the way. The most incredible human beings. And so everyone got to go say goodbye and kiss her forehead. And then I had to go take the breathing mask off my mom. And that was, I actually went into like a Carly mode. I thought, you're an actor. You can do this. Just become someone else in the moment. And I just went over there and I unstrapped everything. And my biggest fear is that she was going to be gasping for breath. And that was all of our biggest fear, was that and that was not at all what happened. It was a very peaceful, beautiful moment. But taking that mask off her face, I released her. She could have been alive for another 4 days of the body shutting down and awful things that I would never know if she could understand. And I was able to remove the mask and watch her just lay there and slowly go.
Wow.
And she never looked more beautiful.
You saw
or more
like
peaceful.
peace.
I have a photo to this day, and it was one of the most beautiful photos of my mother. It was right after the moment where she took her last breath. And she was just glowing. And I hadn't seen her look that peaceful in a couple years.
Wow.
And then 2 months later, I got the phone call that my dad, and that was another incredible experience. I got there and he was sleeping, and he barely kind of recognized me. The last time I was with him before he died, I had to leave, and he looked at me and he said, Laura, it's going to hurt so bad with your mom being gone. We were married 56 years. And I said, yeah, you don't get to have all that goodness and love without it hurting when they're gone, you know. What a gift that you had that. And here we are 2 months later, he's in bed, and December 29th, and he's in a hospice home. And it was my brother and me, Wes, and my sister. And Jeff was sitting there, and it was getting closer and closer to, you know, they can tell by the body and how it's happening, around how much time. So you're not present. And they were giving him morphine to relax him. And he all of a sudden opened his eyes, and he's looking at my brother. And I'm like, Jeff, because Jeff was talking to us, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And we're like, hey. And he's looking at my brother, and he sits up, and he's looking through my brother, and his face lights up, and he dies.
Wow.
Like that oh wow story you always hear about Steve Jobs. My dad looked through my brother, saw something, and he had this like light of joy on his face, and took his last breath.
Wow.
That I just got up and walked out of the room, because I was kind of done then. It was both parents, 2 months apart. It was really, and I was the one that kind of wrote the obituaries, went to the funeral homes. I did kind of most of the work on, in that way. My brother did other things. My sister did other things, but it was like, I went right into, okay, how do we get it done? But it was it was a gift to be there when they transitioned. It's so hard. It's crazy to go through it. The biggest fear was being there, and it turns out to be the biggest gift, you know, especially with my mom, being the one that slept on the floor next to her every night.
Yeah.
It's not the club we want to join, but it's the one we always will. Yeah. We're not getting out of this experience without burying our parents, you know, at some point.
Yeah, you know, that's a beautiful, beautiful story. It's like a great monologue.
You know, I was really having a hard time after my mom died because there was a lot of stuff going on. My dad struggling with the loss of her. Everybody, you know, it was just a lot of chaos, it seems like, you know. And I had to go to the funeral home, and I went by myself to talk to this man about my mom's burial, or cremation. She wanted to be cremated. And so I'm sitting there, and you're thinking it's the worst day. This is where I say, you know, life can be shitty or life's great. It's really your choice, how you look, how you choose to see it, right? And you know, I always say things like that. I'm sitting here in this moment, and this guy sitting across from me is just going on and on about, why do you live in California? He's talking politics to me. We couldn't disagree more. He's talking about all this stuff, California, how, you know, how hot it is. I mean, this guy's going on and on and on, and here I am trying to pick out a box that my mom is going to be cremated in. Like, and at one point, I just started laughing because I thought, you are the gift. You are the gift to make me, to distract me from being so caught up in how awful this could be. Or I could just sit here and laugh at the fact that you were the man that, by the end of it, he wanted my autograph, he wanted pictures with me. It was like amazing. But I remember it started out with me wanting to get angry, and I just sat there cracking up laughing, going, of course. Thank you for this man, because instead of it being this heart-wrenching,
I get you.
It became a distraction that made me laugh.
Distractions are great.
Yes.
During these periods. So I just want to say to everybody who was in there, I want to thank Laura for her vulnerability, being brave, open, everything. She had I guess if this were a movie, she'd win an Oscar because she had everything going here.
Aww.
You know, and it was cool. It was up and down. It was good. It was deep. It was everything. So,
I'm grateful. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's great. It's going to help a lot. You know, the love you're going to get is overwhelming on this. I can just tell you that.